Hello grade 12s and welcome to this English home language lesson. Today our focus will be on using language correctly. My name is Marinda Swanepoel and I'm very excited to be here with you today. So let's get started. If we're looking at the curriculum scope, language structures and conventions is what we will focus on today. It falls under reading and viewing, which also contains reading for meaning and understanding, summary, and the visual analysis. Our focus today will be on the function and application of punctuation, vocabulary-related questions, sentence construction and synthesis, identifying and correcting language usage errors. By the end of the lesson, we will address identifying and correcting commonly assessed punctuation, identifying spelling errors and their impact on word meaning, language usage errors in various contexts, identifying and correcting active and passive voice, concord errors, misrelated participle, comma splice, abbreviations, and sentence synthesis. Identifying and correcting or answering vocabulary-related questions on homophones, antonyms, synonyms, the prefix and suffix, and the malapropism. Identifying and correcting sentence type and structure, and also ambiguity, direct or reported speech. Key words that you need to keep in mind throughout this lesson include punctuation, vocabulary, sentence construction, grammatically correct, sentence synthesis, language usage, function, and in context. What should you be able to do and what should you know? Understand the function and the application of the different punctuation marks like the apostrophe, semicolon, ellipsis, hyphen, dash, and parenthesis. Answering vocabulary-related questions like spelling errors, prefixes, suffixes, homophones, antonyms, synonyms, abbreviations, acronyms, and initialisms, and malapropisms. Analyzing sentence construction and synthesis, the misrelated participle, tautology, redundancy, ambiguity, sentence type, sentence synthesis, direct and reported speech. And then lastly, the identification and correction of language errors, active and passive voice, concord errors, and comma splice. Common content errors that we find is a lack of grammatical knowledge and vocabulary, difficulty with vocabulary, homophones, punctuation, passive voice, antonyms, and speech conversion, and of course not applying knowledge to context. Exam writing competency skills that you will need: reading, critical thinking, time management skills, information retrieval skills, communication skills, active learning methods, and vocabulary skills. Now, before we continue with the rest of the lesson, we're going to take a quick ad break. Welcome back, learners. Let's jump right into the first element we're going to focus on today, and that is the function and application of punctuation. Content problems include a lack of knowledge of key terms, not understanding the function of different punctuation marks, and not applying the rules of punctuation to the context. The first aspect we'll look at is the apostrophe. An apostrophe is used to show possession or ownership and to indicate the omission of letters in contractions. So how do I identify it? The possession or ownership for singular possession, you will find an apostrophe followed by an S to show that one person or thing owns something. In the example, the dog's ball. There you can see an apostrophe S, the ball belongs to the dog. Then for plural possession, for plural nouns that end in an S, you place the apostrophe after the S. If the plural noun does not end in an S, add an apostrophe followed by an S. Here we have the teacher's lounge is closed, so we have plural teachers, the apostrophe goes after. And the children's toys are scattered, Children does not end on an S, although it is plural, so we add the apostrophe S. Apostrophes of contraction or omission, they are used to show that letters have been left out in contracted forms of words. So for example, she's is a contraction of she is. She's going to the party in informal writing or speaking. I don't know the answer. Don't, of course, is a contraction of do not. Then the semicolon. Here you can see the semicolon. It separates closely related independent clauses or items in a complex list. Look for the semicolon where two related clauses or complex list items are joined. For example, it was late, semicolon, we decided to leave. Or I bought apples, oranges, and grapes. There's the semicolon, milk, cheese, and butter, separating it in a complex list. Next up, we have the ellipsis, of course, the dot, dot, dot. An ellipsis shows omitted words or an incomplete thought. Use ellipses where parts of text are omitted or where speech trails off. I was thinking, maybe we should stay. Or the letter said, Dear John, ellipsis, sincerely, Sarah. Then we have the hyphen. Here you can see the hyphen. A hyphen has many uses and we'll go through all of them. They create compound words, so the well-known author was invited to speak at the event. They are also used to avoid ambiguity or confusion. She is a small business owner, so here we know the business is small and the owner is not small. They also connect prefixes like ex, self, and all to words. For example, he is an ex-president of the company. We use hyphens to write compound numbers and fractions. My sister is 25 years old. Now, how do you identify a hyphen? Well, it's a short line and everyone looks at the length of it. But a secret and a quick trick to help you is that there won't be any spaces. Here you can see no spaces, no spaces. Hyphens are joiners, so there won't be any spaces. The hyphens friend, the dash that everyone always confuses, a dash can be used to do the following. Indicate a break or pause in thought. I was going to tell you, but I forgot what I was going to say. Dashes are also used to add emphasis to a word or a dash, the single dash. She had one goal in mind. There's the dash, success. A dash can also introduce an explanation or a list. There is only one reason for her decision. She wanted to make a fresh start. Or he bought everything he needed. There's the dash, a map, water, and his compass. Now, double dashes, as you can see here, are also used, and they can be used to do the following. They can include extra information or parentheses. For example, the school trip, dash, which was planned months ago, dash, was finally happening. The sentence could simply say, the school trip was finally happening. Now, how do I distinguish between a dash and a hyphen? The dash is longer, but again, here's a trick. It has spaces on either side. So here you can see space, 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 space. That's a trick. Keep it in your mind, grade 12s. Next up, we're looking at parentheses or the brackets. Of course, they add extra non-essential information to a sentence. You identify it by the idea that they contain information that could be removed without changing the meaning of the sentence. For example, the book which I borrowed last week, here you can see the brackets, was fascinating. You could also replace brackets with commas. The book, comma, which I borrowed last week, comma, was fascinating. And lastly, it can also be replaced by dashes. The book, which I borrowed last week, was fascinating. Next up, we're going to look at vocabulary-related questions. Content problems include not knowing the correct spelling of words, not applying the knowledge of homophones in the correct context, not identifying the correct or most appropriate antonyms or synonyms based on the context of the sentence, not recognizing how prefixes, suffixes, and root words change the meaning of a word, not knowing how to identify and change parts of speech, and not identifying and correcting malapropism errors in sentences. Spelling errors, of course, incorrect spelling of words. We check the word against the correct spelling rules. For example, receive is often spelled incorrectly, and then we remember the rule I before E except after C. Revise your basic rules of spelling before the examination and look for spelling errors in commonly used words. Don't look for them in the more difficult words. They will be in general words that we use every day. Prefixes and suffixes. Of course, prefixes are added to the beginning of the word to change its meaning, and a suffix is added to the end of a word to modify its form or meaning. For example, he was unhappy with the results. That is the prefix un, making it the opposite meaning. And then a suffix, he walked down the street happily, changing the form of the word happily. Antonyms and synonyms are very easy, and you've been doing them for ages. Antonyms, of course, opposite meanings, and synonyms, words with similar meanings. So antonyms express opposite ideas, while synonyms can be replaced in the sentence without changing the meaning. Now let's look at this example. The team felt optimistic. If you were asked to replace optimistic with a suitable synonym, the word positive could be fitting and won't change the meaning of the sentence. The team felt positive about winning the game. If you were asked to replace optimistic with an antonym, the word pessimistic would fit into the sentence perfectly. The team felt pessimistic about winning the game. Next up, we have homophones, and of course, remember, phone, this is where you put your phone. Homophones are words that sound the same but have different meanings and spellings. So look at the context, and that will determine the correct meaning and the spelling of the specific word. For example, they went there to collect their belongings. As I read the words, you can hear that they sound the same, although they have different spellings and different meanings. She knew she had to write the report the right way. Write meaning to write something down with a pen, and right meaning correct. Then we have abbreviations, acronyms, and initialisms. Acronyms are a word formed from the first letters of a phrase, and very importantly, it is pronounced as a word. Initialisms is a series of initials pronounced separately, and abbreviations are a shortened form of a word or phrase often used for convenience in writing. Here are some examples. Acronyms are pronounced as words. For example, NASA, as the Americans say. We don't say NASA, we say it as a word. Initialisms are pronounced letter by letter. Here we say FBI, not FB. And then, of course, abbreviations are shortened versions of words. For example, DR for doctor. Malapropisms are next up, and this might sound very difficult, grade 12s, but it really isn't. A malapropism is when someone uses an incorrect word that sounds similar to the correct word, causing confusion or accidental humor. So look for a word that doesn't fit the context of the sentence, usually because it sounds like the right word, but it has a very different meaning. Let's look at the example. He is a man of great stature in the community. The correct version of this sentence would be, he is a man of great stature in the community. Before we continue with the rest of our lesson, grade 12s, we're going to go for a quick ad break. I'll see you in just a minute. Welcome back, learners, to this lesson on using language correctly. Let's look at the last part of our lesson, identification and correction of language usage errors. Content problems include not knowing how to change from active to passive voice, not identifying and correcting concord errors, failing to recognize and correct comma splices, confusing abbreviations, acronyms, initialisms, and misunderstanding their proper usage and meaning, correctly converting from direct to reported speech, particularly failing to adjust verb tenses, pronouns, or removing quotation marks. To do active and passive, of course, there's a simple recipe. In active, the subject performs the action, and in passive, the subject receives the action. How do you convert? Start by identifying the verb, then find the subject, ask yourself who, find the object, what is happening to, begin with the object, and of course, change the verb and add by. Add the subject and change the pronouns if needed. For example, the chef prepared the meal. Prepared is the verb. Who prepares? The chef. He's the subject. What is prepared? The meal. That's the object. Start with the object. The meal was prepared by the chef. Very simple, and those steps will work every time. Concord errors are when subject-verb agreement isn't correct, so when they do not agree in number. Ensure singular subjects have singular verbs and plural subjects have plural verbs. For example, the committee, along with its members, were divided on the issue. Here, the correct form would be the committee, along with its members, was, because there's only one committee. Comma splice. A comma splice occurs when two independent clauses are joined by a comma without a conjunction. Look for two complete ideas separated by a comma but without a conjunction like and or but. For example, I went to the store, comma, I bought bread. I went to the store, comma, and I bought bread. Very simple. Now we're getting to direct or reported speech. Of course, direct speech is when someone's exact words are quoted, and reported speech is paraphrasing or summarizing what someone has said. Direct speech uses quotation marks, while reported speech does not and typically shifts the verb tense. For example, he said, I am going home. By the use of the quotation marks, we know that that is direct speech. In the reported form, he said that he was going home. How do you change from direct to indirect speech? There are a couple of steps that will help you. First of all, remove the quotation marks. Then look for the pronouns and change them. If it's first person, it'll go to third person. Second person pronouns will change to fit the person being spoken to, and then third person pronouns will stay the same. You must also shift the verb tense if necessary. So from present tense, you'll go to past tense, from present continuous to past continuous, and from past tense to past perfect. Adjust the time expressions if necessary, so the word today will change to that day. Then introduce it with a reporting verb like said or told or asked, for example. Sarah said, I am meeting my friends tomorrow at the park and we will discuss our project. Those are some of the things that you need to change. In the solution, you'll see Sarah said that she was meeting her friends the next day at the park and they would discuss their project, changing the pronouns, changing the tense, and also the words that show time. Let's look at a practical example. A typical question would look like this. There would be a text and questions would be answered on that. For example, question 5.1, refer to the title, replace the word quirky with a formal English word. That word must then fit into the sentence to replace quirky. So in this case, unusual, peculiar, odd, or strange. Any one of those would get you a mark. Question 5.2, provide the homophone of the word cues. Now it's very easy that I'm saying it out loud. You can hear that it sounds the same because it's a homophone as cues, like cue cards that you would use. Then question 5.3, replace the dash in line 4 with a suitable alternative punctuation mark. Go to line 4, find the dash and identify its function in the sentence, and then you replace it with another punctuation mark. Here, it would be replaced with the semicolon. Correct the Concord error in paragraph 2. So here, according to a 2023 study by Statista Online, retail sales worldwide is projected. Here I see the problem. Retail sales, plural, is the wrong verb for that. So the correct answer would be are. The next question is question 5.5. Online shopping is not just a trend, it's a lifestyle. Rewrite the above in the indirect speech. So here you would find the speaker's name is Jane Thompson, and you would start with that and a word like said, that online shopping was not just a trend, but it was a lifestyle. You must change the tense and then add the speaker's name if it's available and an introductory word like said. Question 5.6, provide an antonym for the word commences, and very importantly, in the context of line 9. So if we go to line 9, the journey commences with the search bar. So here commences means starts or begins, and we are looking for an antonym, and that would then be concludes, ends, finishes, ceases, or stops. Any one of those. Question 5.7, the pursuit of discount codes further adds to the allure. Here we have to rewrite the sentence in the passive voice. Start by finding your verb, find the subject, find the object, and then begin with the object. So the allure is further added to by the pursuit of discount codes. Then the next question, question 5.8, correct the malapropism in paragraph 5. You're using your scanning skills and you find it here at the bottom of paragraph 4. It's like Christmas morning. That, of course, is the wrong morning. The correct morning is when the sun rises at the beginning of the day. This morning meaning to grieve. Then question 5.9, refer to paragraph 5, remove the redundancy, so saying the same thing twice. Online shopping is a roller coaster of emotions and feelings. Emotions and feelings mean the same thing, so you simply remove one of those, or you can rewrite the sentence and remove any one. So this has been our lesson today on using language correctly. We focused on the function and application of punctuation, vocabulary-related questions, sentence construction and synthesis, and identifying and correcting language usage errors. Grade 12s, I hope this will help you in your next exam. Revise your language skills and make sure you tackle question 5 with confidence and with knowledge in your pocket. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope I will see you soon. Hello grade 12s, welcome to this English home language lesson on using language correctly. My name is Marinda Swanepoel and I'm very excited to do some practice questions with you today. Let's jump right in. The first question we're going to look at is from November 2023 and it's the question 5. Now, because this is on using language correctly, we don't have to read the entire text before we start answering questions. My advice would be to skim over the text to get a general idea of what it's about. So this one is on how Africa is giving fast food a new spin, and it gives you information on an investment banker who decided to start his own fast food eatery. In 2004, he opened Kilimanjaro. There are outlets across Nigeria, and the rest of the text focuses on that. There's also information on how international chains have tailored their products to local tastes, how local influencers have influenced international chain stores like KFC, for example. Now let's go to the questions. Question 5.1 says, refer to the title. That's where your focus needs to be. Replace the word spin with a formal English word. If you go back to the title, how Africa is giving fast food a new spin. So spin could be replaced with a look, appeal, flavor, or outlook, and any other valid formal synonyms would be accepted in this answer. Question 5.2 says provide the homophone of the word queue. Now, of course, when I pronounce it, you can hear that queue is the correct answer. Homophones sound the same, but they have different spelling and meaning. So the word queue, like using a cue card, that is what they were looking for. And of course, the spelling has to be correct. Question 5.3, replace the commas in lines 3 and 4 with a suitable alternative punctuation marks. That's very important. So there's also a hint in that question, grade 12. We go to lines 3 to 4. In 2004, he opened Kilimanjaro, comma, a chain of fast food restaurants, comma, which today has 20 outlets across Nigeria. So we know double commas add extra information, and they could be replaced with either double dashes or the brackets. Question 5.4, correct the concord error in paragraph 2. So concord is noun-verb agreement. The singular noun or plural nouns need to agree with the verbs. Here we have Kenya and Nigeria offers. Here we have two nouns, so offers should be offer without the S. Very simple for 1 mark. Question 5.5, some international chains have tailored their products to local tastes. Here, rewrite the above sentence in the passive voice. Remember, when you're converting from active to passive, find the verb, ask yourself what is happening. Some international chains have tailored, there's your verb, then ask who. Here we go, that is the subject. And then what have they tailored? Their products, that is the object. You start with the object and you add by before the verb. Their products have been tailored to local tastes by some international chains. Then for question 5.6, provide an antonym, so a word with the opposite meaning for the word profound in the context. So it must fit into the context of line 13. If we go to line 13, apart from their profound knowledge of local homegrown tastes, their chains are also adept at managing a business in challenging circumstances, such as when electricity is in short supply. We need to replace profound, so the opposite of profound knowledge would be superficial knowledge, shallow, basic, minimal, limited, or insufficient, and then valid alternatives that fit into the context will also be accepted for 1 mark. Question 5.7, refer to paragraph 3. We have to remove the redundancy. So that is when something is said in the same thing is said more than once. If we scan through the texts, we find it here. Apart from their profound knowledge, the sentence we used in the previous question, of local homegrown tastes. Local and homegrown mean the same, so you can remove either local or homegrown. You can remove only the word or rewrite the entire sentence. Then question 5.7.2, we're still in paragraph 3, correct the malapropism. That, of course, is when an incorrect word that sounds similar to the word is used, but it means something different and it is also spelt differently. It's in the same sentence where we found the previous answer. We just read a little bit further. Their chains are also adept at managing a business, and the correct answer here would be adept with an E, which means skilled. Spelling must be correct for the 1 mark. Now let's take a look at question 5.8. Here we have a sentence. He added that ultimately it was a gamble on the future. Rewrite the above sentence in the direct speech. So it's in indirect speech and you have to put it into direct speech. So it's from Schulze. And remember, when you're writing in direct speech, you need to add quotation marks and then change some of the verbs. So he added, ultimately, there we have our quotation marks, and was a gamble changes to is a gamble on the future. Here you will get 1 mark for the correct punctuation and 1 mark for the correct tense. Now that we've finished the first example, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in just a little bit. Welcome back, grade 12s. We're jumping right into the next question. This example is from the May-June question paper from 2023, and of course it's question 5. Again, we're not going to read the entire text, we might skim through it. When your Airbnb host charges you for air, a TikToker with the username @Paprice shared a video of a gadget they encountered while at an Airbnb. So then it's all about a video where they charge you for air. And then the focus shifts to how many views the video has gained on social media, and then how over the years hotel alternatives like Airbnb have boomed in popularity and how they offer rentals that are flexible and it's for adventure travelers, etc. Now we're going to go to the questions. Since this is language, we don't need to have a full understanding of the text to be able to answer these questions. Question 5.1. Rewrite the first sentence of paragraph 1 so that it is grammatically correct. We're looking at the first sentence. A TikToker with a username Papyrus shared a video of a gadget they encountered while at an Airbnb. So the problem here is the pronoun. He or she could be replaced there, or you can change the sentence to a TikToker with a username shared a video of a gadget encountered, so avoiding the pronoun completely, for 1 mark. Now let's take a look at question 5.2. Here it's given us a line reference, refer to lines 3 to 6, but the whole line is not quoted, so we go back to the text. Correct the single punctuation error in the above sentence, and we go find line 3, the digital screen with numbers that tick higher and higher the longer the aircon is on, is used to hold guests responsible and accountable for using the host's aircon to control the temperature of the rented room. The issue in punctuation isn't the word hosts because it needs an apostrophe of possession. So you could either write it as a singular host, apostrophe S, or plural hosts with the apostrophe coming after. Any of those would be accepted for 1 mark. Now we go to question 5.3. Using a suffix, of course we know they go to the end of the word, change the word digital in line 3 to an adverb. So using your knowledge of parts of speech, you have to change the parts of speech. The answer would be digitally. So you're adding the suffix to make digital an adverb. Very simple. Then question 5.4. Write the word aircon in line 4 out in full. So of course aircon is used here, and aircon is short for air conditioner or air conditioning. Either one of these would be accepted for 1 mark. Question 5.5. Provide the superlative form of accountable. Remember degrees of comparison? Of course we have the comparative, which would be more accountable. So the superlative comparison would be most accountable. Revise those degrees of comparisons, grade 12s. You never know, it might be an easy way to get a free mark. Question 5.6. Explain the expression to ruffle major feathers. Now, of course, you can go and read it in context here in line 7. It's a figure of speech, figurative speaking, meaning to upset someone considerably. Here, the mark will be awarded for a response that shows the severity of the expression, meaning to upset someone or to annoy someone, anything like that would get you a mark. Then question 5.7, refer to line 9. What is the root word of vacationers? So go back to that information that you've learned. Vacationers in line 9 is there. So the root word of vacationers should be to vacate or vacation. What a lovely idea. Question 5.8, give the antonym of boomed in line 10, and then very, very important, grade 12s, the sentence says in the context of the sentence. So first go and find boomed and analyze what it means in that sentence and then provide an antonym. Over the years, hotel alternatives have boomed in popularity. So immediately I know boomed means to grow, so I try to find an antonym that means the opposite of that in the context of the sentence. So hotel alternatives have declined in popularity, plummeted in popularity, dropped or dwindled. Any one of these, all valid alternatives would be accepted. Then question 5.9, refer to paragraph 4. You can see we have paragraph 4 over here. Create a single sentence from the following two sentences. So we're joining sentences. Make sure you do this carefully, and before you write your final answer, make sure it makes sense. The two sentences we have to join: with over 5.6 million active listings worldwide, Airbnb is filling a very important gap in the market. So there's the end of the first sentence. They offer rentals perfect for flexible adventure travelers looking for fuss-free bookings. These two sentences must be combined, and of course it must be grammatically correct. So let's look at the answer. 5.9, with over 5.6 million active listings worldwide, there's a comma. Airbnb is filling a very important gap in the market. There's a comma, offering rentals perfect for flexible adventure travelers looking for fuss-free bookings. Very simple. Make sure your answer makes sense before you move on. Then we're going to question 5.10, refer to line 12. Airbnb is filling a very important gap in the market. Here we have to convert the above sentence to the passive voice. So always remember, grade 12s, you find the verb first. This recipe will work. Airbnb is filling. There's my verb. Who is filling? Is Airbnb. That's the subject. And what are they filling? A very important gap in the market. So there's the object. You start with the object. A very important gap in the market is being filled by Airbnb. Simple, and it works every time. The next example we're going to use is from November 2022, and it is question 5. This text is titled January, Does It Bring You Joy? January is the time for renewal on many fronts. It's the time of the year to re-evaluate everything. So we're quickly scanning through the text to find the meaning, but we're not reading for meaning and understanding as deeply as you would in a comprehension text, for example. So we must keep our families safe and secure, that we are thriving as a people and a nation. In order to live their best lives, people are spreading themselves thinner and thinner with multiple streams of income. So we earn more, but we live less. We lose focus on what is important. With social media, keeping up with other Instagrammers are having a devastating effect on self-perception. Everything appears to be real perfect, but the fabric of our society is frazzled. Use January to take stock and start navigating new ways of doing things instead of multiple streams of soul sessions. Travel more, connect with people and places. So it's a little inspirational piece on January. Now let's go to the questions. Refer to line 1. Provide a synonymous phrase. So that means it can be more than one word for on many fronts. So if you go to line 1, it says January is the time for renewal, and we need to replace on many fronts with a synonymous phrase that fits into the context, of course. So January is the time for renewal in various ways or in various aspects, in various spheres or different areas. Anything like that or an alternative would get you a mark as long as it fits the context of this sentence. Question 5.2. What is the function of the hyphen in re-evaluate? So here you go through your knowledge of the hyphen and the hyphen's use, and you remember very simply that hyphens join prefixes to the verb, or they separate two vowels to assist with pronunciation. This is a straightforward entry-level question testing your knowledge of punctuation marks. Now, grade 12s, before we continue with the rest of our lesson, we're going to go to a quick ad break and we'll be back in just a little bit. Welcome back, grade 12s, to this lesson on using language correctly. In the curriculum scope, language structures and conventions fall under reading and viewing. That has been our focus today, but there are also other aspects like reading for meaning and understanding, summary writing, and of course, the visual analysis. Our focus today has been on the function and application of punctuation, vocabulary-related questions, sentence construction and synthesis, and identification and correction of language usage errors. Key words that you always need to keep in mind include punctuation, vocabulary, sentence construction, and grammatically correct. Also, sentence synthesis, language usage, function, and in context. Common content errors that we find are a lack of grammatical knowledge and vocabulary, and then difficulty with vocabulary, homophones, punctuation, passive voice, antonyms, and speech conversion. And of course, not applying the knowledge to the context. That's so important. Exam writing competencies that you always need to use: reading skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills, information retrieval skills, communication skills, active learning methods, and your vocabulary skills. Here I have included some practice questions that you can do at home. They're all from past papers. Go and use these to practice your language skills to get those marks up. I hope that what you've learned today will help you in your next exam paper. Work hard, put in the work, and you will definitely achieve your goals. Thank you so much for joining me today, grade 12s, and I hope that I will see you soon.